Welcome, believers. Welcome, conspiracy theorists. Welcome to the wonderfully weird world of the Tinfoil Hat Fan Club, where we talk about all the batshit crazy stuff in the world. And there is loads. In fact, there is so much that I have actually bought a map, as you can see, right? And I'm going to start pinning what we start talking about, because we were talking about the 1977 UFO wave in the UK, and it's massive. I didn't believe it myself. So a quick recap. All right, as I say, I'll place the map there, right? So, 1977, we had the Broadhaven incident, and this is where it all started for me, right? On the 4th of February 1977, a UFO landed in a field opposite the school. The children reported seeing a cigar-shaped object land in a field and a silvery suit entity emerge, right? And that's there. That is Pembrokeshire, right? The Broadhaven incident, and they're the kids. Right, that's what really started me looking into this a little bit, okay? Then we had the wind whistle incident, okay? A woman called Kate Walker reported seeing, again, a cigar-shaped UFO on a lonely stretch of road on the A30 on September 1977. She was an abductee, right? And the Katie Walker incident is there, look, just there, just outside of Dorset on a lonely part of the A30, right? So that was the Katie Walker story. And then you look into it further, and we had a Winchester abduction incident, and that's there, right? That's the Winchester abduction incident, right? So this happened on the 14th of February, 1976. Okay, all right, short of a year, but now again, a cigar-shaped UFO with a silver-suited entity. That was the abduction of Joyce Bowles, okay? That one there, the Winchester one. Right, now also in April 1977, just there, right, okay, in Dartmoor, we had a cattle mutilation, right? Okay, so in April 1977, there was a horrific incident near the small Dartmoor village of Postbridge. Right, Mr. Alan Higgs, his wife and two children, were walking a remote part of the moor, and it is remote, right, when they found 15 dead and mutilated ponies. Now, the injuries sustained by the victims indicated immense and violent force. All right, now that is always a part of the UFO thing that I do not like. Right, now I am a massive UFO fan. I'm 100% convinced they're out there, but I don't like the counter mutilation bit. It's a bit dodgy, isn't it? Okay, but that was Dartmoor. Okay, so we've got that. Dartmoor, we've got obviously the A30, Kate Walker, we've got the Winchester incident, and we've got the Pembrokeshire incident so far, right? And we can't forget the Lake District sighting. All right, that's all the way up there, that is. All right, my map don't quite reach it, okay? Right, as I say, the Lake District sighting, this time a pyramid-shaped UFO was spotted by at least 10 policemen, okay? The Windermere UFO incident is called, and it was happened on August the 28th, 1977. 10, right? I thought it was more than that. 10 police officers and numerous witnesses observed a huge triangular UFO passing over Windermere, and the incident lasted about 20 minutes, all right? Windermere, right up there. Lovely place, actually. It really is a nice place. So, 10 policemen, right? Police people. I say this all the time. You cannot dismiss a policeman saying he saw a UFO, because in 1977, if they said that, they were probably sacked. They had a lot more to lose than they had to gain, all right? So, I found another one, all right? And that is there, right? This happened in Cheshire. Right, so the incident occurred in Cheshire, all right? UFO files released by the Ministry of Defence have revealed children's sketches of what appears to be an alien spaceship at a Cheshire school in 1977, the same year as the Broadhaven incident, right? The pictures drawn by school pupils at Upton Priory School were made public by the MOD's UFO desk shortly before it closed down in 2009. Now, there's not a lot on this one. I really did try to find more on it, but I struggled, to be honest. But the document reveals that the sighting occurred in October 1977, when 10 children at the school, roughly aged between 7 and 11, had gone for their lunch break. right, they came back and told the teacher and Mrs. Hindmarsh that they had seen something hovering around the trees before it vanished into the sky. Now, the teacher told the children to draw what they had seen independently of each other using crayons and coloured pencils. Now, the images were so striking that she passed the dossier to police in Cheshire before it ended up at the UFO desk at the Military of Defence. And really, that's all I've got on it, okay? But someone did get involved. In a covering letter, the police officer said there was a remarkable similarity in these sketches with regards to the UFO and its location between the two trees. Now, a Dr. David Clark, a former journalist and currently a professor at Sheffield University, was involved in transferring the ministry's files into the public domain between 2009 and 2013. Now, he was well impressed with this, right? So, speaking to Cheshire Live. Now, this is where I got this information from, right? Cheshire Live. If you go on the internet, find it, you can get the story out, right? Now, speaking to Cheshire Live, he said, when I opened these particular ones, it struck me more as interesting than the usual because it was full of these crayon drawings by these school kids from Macclesfield. He said, I suppose kids say all kinds of things about things they've seen in playgrounds, but the teacher must have thought this was something to be taken seriously and sat them down to get them to draw what they had seen independently. And that's important. They were all split up and told to draw what they had seen, and they all drew the cigar-shaped UFO and the two trees. Now then, because the drawings were so similar, she actually gathered them together and took them to the police station, okay, in Macclesfield. Then this policeman had written a report about this and sent it to the air traffic control in Manchester to see if they'd seen anything on the radar. It doesn't tell you whether they did or they didn't. I can't seem to find any information on it. Then this dossier ended up being sent to the Ministry of Defence in London and passed to the UFO desk. It really is quite something. That is what this bloke said, right? When he was discovering the pictures and doing a file, he was really, really impressed with the amount of details and how similar the drawings was. Now, the images were featured in Dr. Clark's book, UFO Drawings from the National Archive, which was published in September 2017. So he added, right, this is his words, he says, the Macclesfield case was one of the ones I selected to go in the book because the images are so amazing. Now, the 53-year-old speculated that the children could have been inspired by the booming science fiction films around that period. He said that in 1977 was a big year because that's when Star Wars was released. I remember really clearly at the time being really into space and science fiction. Then Close Encounters of the Third Kind was out the following year, and obviously Doctor Who was popular at the time. That could have been something that inspired them to do this. And I doubt it though, right? Kids are not stupid. And honestly, I don't think they would fabricate something just because they watch Star Wars or they're into Doctor Who. Because let's face it, Star Wars is a majorly cool film. And Doctor Who, my favourite was David Tennant, by the way. Doctor Who was really cool. You know, I used to watch it when I was a kid, but it never wanted me to go and pretend I saw a UFO in the school. It never did that for me. So I reckon they saw something, all right? So you have the Broadhaven school incident, okay? And I'm just going to have a drink. Sorry about that. So you have the Broadhaven school incident in February and the Cheshire incident in October. Both report on a cigar-shaped UFO, both in 1977. Now, do you think that's a coincidence? I don't think so. I really don't. I really don't. Similar shaped UFOs as well. But it doesn't end there, right? There is a few more. Now, there's not much on these ones. Just UFO reports, really, taken from a website called the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, right? And it's called NUCOP. Yeah, National Investigation Committee, NIC, on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, right? And you can find it out. It's really interesting, actually. So in 1977, loads happened. I mean, loads, seriously. So, but I'm only going to talk about the British ones, right? So, February the 4th, 1977, in Staffordshire, right? And then when I've finished, I will, you don't want me to see me fumbling around trying to find Staffordshire on the map, right? Once it's done, I'll pin them up and we'll see how far we get with it, right? So this was Staffordshire, England, 2:25 a.m. An AA patrolman, you know, an automotive club patrolman, sighted a luminous orange object at some distance from his car, right? And as he saw this, his two-way radio had heavy static while the object was in view. There was simultaneously radio interference at the Stafford Police Headquarters as well, right? So that happened in February the 4th, 1977. Now, as I say, there's nothing on it, just that. He's reported seeing a weird orange object while he was out on patrol, okay? So, February the 4th, 1977, right? Now, February the 7th, 1977, in Newcastle under Lyme in England, at 12:30 p.m, school students from a school saw a grey flattened cigar-shaped object moving slowly through the sky. Now, they said it was surrounded by a vapour or mist. It changed colour to orange, then to green, and then flew off towards the east-southeast, okay? The sighting lasted about 10 minutes, right? So they're saying it changed from orange to green, where the AA man just saw orange, all right? And it was basically just a couple of days after. Well, 3, to be precise, you know? So do you think it was the same machine? Do you think it was the same one, right? And then you got March the 9th, 1977, all right, in Lancashire. At 3:10 a.m, a cigar-shaped metallic object appeared in the sky, so the two witnesses stopped their car for a better look. Now, they said the UFO had lights at either end and they were changing colour, and the entire object was surrounded by a grey mist. Yet again, a bit like what the kids see at that school, in a grey mist. The witnesses heard a sound they described as being like the tide coming in and out. So I imagine that was like... I wasn't there though, so that's just an impression. Now, as the object came quite close, their car engine stopped and their headlights dimmed. And again, that's a regular thing, isn't it? After 5 minutes, the object flew off and the car could be restarted. Ironically, weirdly enough, both the witnesses came down with headaches shortly after the sighting. But, you know, not being funny, if that happened to me, I would have a headache too. You know, pressure, you know, it's unusual, isn't it? And unusual, it would freak you out. It would give you a headache, okay? So that, and then we got one on March the 13th, 1977, and that is in Pembrokeshire, Wales. But this is a bit of a weird one, all right? So again, Pembrokeshire, all right? The Broadhaven incident, it's the same area, right? At 9 p.m, a Stephen Taylor, age 17, was walking home from his girlfriend's house when he saw an orange luminous pear-shaped UFO in the sky. Now, he walked to a friend's house to tell him, but was not believed. And then I'll buy that. About half a mile further on, he noticed that he could not see the lights of the farmhouse to his right. So he started looking closer. He saw that there were obscured by a large dome-shaped object, dark in appearance and about 30 to 40 foot in diameter and 40 foot high. This was resting in the adjacent field. Now, he says it's around its underside there was a dim glow of light. Now, as he watched, he heard footsteps and looked around. Only a few yards away was a figure. Now, he said it was like a skinny human, about 6 foot. The being looked like an old man. Now, he described the entity with, it had high cheekbones. He had round, large eyes that he said resembled that of a fish. Over its mouth was a box-like device with a tube leaving over the shoulder, and he was wearing a one-piece suit that looked semi-transparent. Now, Taylor reckons, right, that he took a swing at the figure and ran for home. On arrival, he found his dog acting strangely towards him, snarling and barking. and had to be put outside. The dog was that freaked out. So, but the next day the dog acted normal. So, do you think then that whatever I don't know, this entity was doing, you know, the smell, the dog could smell it on his owner. That sounds about right to me. But he reckons he took a swing at him. So he was tall, skinny, high cheekbones, and with fish-like eyes. That's an unusual one, isn't it? All right, but there's another one, right? April the 7th, 1977, in Milford Haven. Again, Pembrokeshire, right? Okay, Wales. Now, this was at 5 a.m. And Mr. Cyril John, age 64, a former local political leader, was up early for an early start to London when he noticed a light shining in his bedroom window. Now, looking out, he observed two objects. The first was a silver grey egg-shaped object with a bright orange red light on top of it. It was about 4 foot across and was rocking gently in the air about 60 metres away from the window, right? The second was a 7 to 8 foot tall humanoid figure who floated in the air with his arms out and his legs bent back. And he described him as like, well, it looked like a free-for-all parachutist. There was only about 35 feet between the man and the observer. No features could be seen on the figure's face, and it wore a uniformly silver grey boiler suit. It remained motionless in the air for more than 25 minutes. Then both the being and that egg-shaped object began slowly moving off, gradually disappearing from view in the distance. Now, this bloke then was a politician. So I'm pretty sure he's sensible enough that you don't make something like that up, all right? Especially a figure floating in midair like a parachutist, all right? You are going to be called mad in 1977, and the chances are you might even lose your job, all right? So it's not worth lying about. So the incidents then. So we've got 2 more in Pembrokeshire, all right? So I will put the pegs in. So next week we'll have them there. I'll have my little photos, and we can start forming a pattern, all right, to see exactly what was going on in 1977, because there is loads going on, all right? Well, this was the Tinfoil Hat Fan Club. What do you think, then, of the Cheshire incident? Sorry, another drink. What do you think of the Cheshire incident, then, the school kids? 10 school kids, Cheshire, obviously there, Broadhaven there, both schools, both pupils seeing what you could only describe as a cigar-shaped UFO. I reckon it's the same one, personally. It would make sense, wouldn't it, really? You know, what it was doing around at that time, we'll never know. But, so, yeah, what do you think, then? So this is the Tinfoil Hat Fan Club. I really appreciate you sticking around. And we will continue with this, right? The 1977 UFO Wave, we'll call it. So the title for this one is the 1977 UFO Wave, the Cheshire School Case. All right, so look out for it. And I will catch you on the next one. Thanks very much.